Warning, the following communications are not authorized. Please disable your signals and report to your local re-education center immediately. Failure to comply will result in immediate reprimand and capital punishment.
Check 1, check 2, check 3. Eric,
Yes,
how are you?
sir.
Welcome, Vlad.
Amazing.
What's up, guys?
For those of you who don't know, Vlad Kazbekov, MMA fighter extraordinaire, a great dresser, obviously, big trash talker, and you also spend time as a translator for the UFC, is that correct?
For the past 4 years, I've been employed there.
He's been employed for the past 4 years, you heard it right. Get your super chats in if you want them read on the air. We're going to go ahead and jump into the first story here, which is actually, you guys, very close to home if you're Canadian. Vlad's going to know this story. Chris Sky was arrested today, you guys, on some crazy, weird charges. I'll just read you the CBC article. I know it's the CBC, but this is basically bare bones facts right now. Anti-mask protester Chris Sky arrested for allegedly making death threats, driving at a police officer. Prominent figure in Canada's anti-mask and anti-lockdown movement has been arrested by Toronto police after allegedly threatening to shoot people during phone conversations and driving his car at police when officers tried to arrest him. Chris Sokochia is facing 3 counts of uttering death threats and 1 count of assaulting a peace officer in a weapon and dangerous operation in a vehicle. Now, they're saying that he, and Eric, we're still getting static on your thing. So what I heard today is, well, what the article says, Vlad, is that they're claiming that he backed out and sped out of his driveway, and one of the police officers had to move out of the way quickly. So they're calling that
Assault? They're somehow calling this assault, eh?
I'm trying to look for the actual charge here. It said he got in his vehicle to drive away when officers found him. Police say that they tried to block his vehicle, at which point he reversed and charged toward an officer, quote, causing him to jump out of the way to avoid being hit. Assaulting a peace officer with a weapon and dangerous operation of a vehicle. Have you heard anything about this, Vlad? Surprised, not surprised?
I've heard everything you just said. I've read it literally 2 hours ago. And I've read it on CBC, and I just assumed everything. To know the real story, it's most likely has to be just opposite from what you read on papers. And that's what's actually going to be.
So what I'm hearing, and this is all hearsay, of course, from random people who claim to know him, basically a guy who is close to him has a recording of him making threats, and they handed that over to police. And now, Eric, they're going through this whole song and dance where they went to his house, they arrested him, they're putting him on all these charges. I don't know what's going to happen. I heard he got out earlier this afternoon.
On bail?
Do you think... I'm not sure if it's on bail or what. It must have been. But, Eric, what do you think's happening here? Sorry, Vlad. Let's get Eric in
Wait,
first.
okay. How's my audio? Am I all right? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. It's just that when you're not talking, we get some static.
I don't know why that is, but okay. So my first question is obviously, it's always something different with the audio, but anyways. So I mean, who is this guy around? He can't trust anybody apparently. Were those his friends that were recording him? That's crazy.
Without saying the name, because I don't want to incriminate somebody, it's what people know to be his best, like his closest ally, actually turned out to possibly have set him up. Wow. Allegedly. Some people are saying stuff in the chat. Yeah, so the charges against him, I don't know how much of these are chopped up. I mean, backing out, speeding away. My guess is that the last time they did this, they really freaked him out because they brought like 20 cop cars, blocked off his street and everything, and now they're doing all this stuff. So only time will tell. There's a lot of controversy about him out there right now, about past Facebook posts and past comments he'd made about like World War II and black people and Muslims and stuff. The problem with that is the people who are posting that stuff are a very discredited group. I don't even want to say their name because they suck that bad and I don't want to give them attention, but it's a website that's very discredited. They've lost lawsuits, have been forced to apologize, and the screenshots aren't linked to anything. So when you don't have an archive of something and you can't actually link to them existing and you just got screenshots. I mean, this day and age, anybody can download the Facebook font or the Twitter font and just make up whatever they've they want about it. Now, Vlad, I want to ask you you've gotten into a lot of confrontations with people over the years. Has anybody ever made anything up about you?
Well, I have haters all over my. I have no idea who they are. I've tried to get my Russian friends that are hackers, and we pinpointed to 100 meters through IP address. I know some of them from Niagara Falls, some of them from Scarborough, but that's 100 meters close. And trust me, make no mistake about it, I will find who they are. And we can't say obviously what I'm gonna do here. Can't end up like Chris Sky, but but I have some haters that create different accounts and they comment on under every single fucking video on YouTube about me saying like I'm steroid user or something, when I'm the only guy that's fucking ever being tested. Like every time I fight in the United States, I'm the only guy ever being tested all the time. So I guess since I decided to be bald, even though I haven't lost hair, I just shaved it. People assume that I'm on steroids. It's pathetic loser.
George Costanza would have a problem with that. George Costanza would say, shaving your head is like pretending to be disabled. I think that's what he says.
I have another just real quick question about this, though. So not only has he apparently, possibly, allegedly, maybe been set up by his friend, but can you, I mean, look, I don't want to get banned. I don't want you to get banned, but can you blame the guy? They've been driving people to this insanity for more than a year, right? Like I moved halfway across the country to get away from these crazy people. So something's got to give eventually. Like when you're constantly like berating this guy and you're not letting him. And look, I don't know the guy. You obviously have a better relationship. You know, did we do a stream once? I don't know. Anyways, so I don't know what he's like in real life, but it's like clear that they're trying to drive people to insanity, bro. Remember when was that little lady's name who said, "Oh, well, you should wear a face mask when you have sex or something"? Like, give it a rest, bro.
Teresa
like,
Tam.
When you do things like that, it's gonna drive people absolutely insane. So they're pretending like, "Whoa, he's a crazy person." It's like, dude, you have been. I mean, governments across this world have been driving people to insanity and suicide and drugs and alcohol for over a year. So this does not really surprise me. He seems like an eccentric guy, anyways. You know what I mean? I'm no shade, but like when you got your neck tattooed, you know, it's a personality. It's a strong personality. So no shade to Chris, but I'm just it doesn't surprise me that this has angered people to the point of like wanting to, you know, use your car as a weapon.
The problem I see is that if the stuff that he said is true, it's very hard to support a person who says some stuff like that. You can have your opinions. I just want people to be able to have their opinions and have it debated. But when stuff like that, if he really did this stuff, if he really did try to hit a cop with his car, if he really did say a bunch of stuff, then my belief in him is going to go down. But the person that they're saying this is, everybody thought that he was kind of a joke and a fraud anyways. The guy that everybody is saying told on him. So it's a lot of conjecture here. I don't think we should say anything else. It's all alleged. We're going after this. CBC article is actually based off the police report, which the reporter attached to his tweet. So Vlad, you got something to say about it?
Well, if they charge them, then there's definitely enough to charge them. They can't just charge based on shit that's, because I have been charged many times. So they definitely have reasons. Yeah, they definitely have reasons to charge him. It's just sad that the guy knows the law. Chris Sky knows the law in and out, and then he would allow himself to get in trouble like that, which is it's kind of stupid, because you know what to say, you know what to do, what not to do. Even I know it, and I don't know the law as much as he does.
All right, transition. Eric, did you have something else to say, or do you want to go to the next exciting bannable topic here?
I could go on a lot about that, but we can move on. It's just move on. Next.
Every week it feels like we're talking about something to get banned. Usually it's I don't even want to say any word related to the things that are related to how our lives are government controlled right now, because that could set something else off. So let's just ignore it if we can today. It's pretty sad. But something else is Alex Jones, and we put in the title today, Alex Jones texted me, and it's a hilarious thing to get text messages from Alex Jones. I'll just try to bring up. I'll play a clip. He's on my show tonight on rebelnewsplus.com, so you do have to sign up to watch it. But I'm flagrant with the clips, so I'm going to show you guys one right now. When you guys were doing that big podcast where all the memes were taken from, all the clips where you and Eddie Bravo and all that was happening, it almost sounded like Joe wanted to take you out on tour with him. Was there ever any discussion about Alex Jones should come out and be part of a comedy tour or a bunch of shows? This is pre-lockdown.
Yes, Joe wants me to do comedy. I'd love to do it. That there's such a censorship thing going on that all the big venues that he would be at, twice Joe has had me coming to be at his event, to be on stage with him in Austin alone. And both times, and these are the two biggest comedy clubs, they said, no Alex Jones is allowed here because he's going to attack people and say attack people on air, which I never do. It's all media lies. They take a few things I've said over 27 years out of context and say we're not going to allow him to yell fire in a theater or attack people at this place. And these leftists that own these big comedy clubs, they even tell Joe Rogan, who's, in comedy, right below Dave Chappelle. I mean, he's in the top, I mean, he packs 20,000 person arenas. He's on tour with Dave Chappelle around the country. In fact, I was just thinking about going to see him in Vegas, coming up here in a few months. I'm not a huge fan of Vegas, but I like comedy shows there that, they know how to do it. Go hang out with Joe in Vegas. You have to talk about hanging out with Joe. I've known Joe since 1998. I've hung out with him since 99, and I have partied hard with Joe Rogan in Vegas, in Dallas, in LA, and all over. So I've known Joe for a long, long time. He's a great guy because I'm not into celebrities. I don't care about Brad Pitt. I don't care about all that kind of crap. I've actually been at parties with those folks before. They're just boring. I don't care about, Sean Penn or any of it. It's all a big joke, or Josh Brolin or any of these guys that got a stick up their ass. But Joe Rogan, I always thought he was cool.
And there you have it. We could show another clip later, but that's on rebelnewsplus.com tonight at 9. Well, you're sighing again, Eric. You're sighing a lot these days. What's going on?
That one was actually hilarious, and I can't even listen to Alex Jones without hearing your Alex Jones impression. So it's just like blowing my mind having you side by side with Alex Jones. I'm like, wait, who's talking?
Very hard. It was very hard not to do my impression of him to him. So something that you're not going to see in there, again, 9 o'clock, rebelnewsplus.com, $8 a month or for a year. Sign up and get a free 3 months. 3 months free. So something you're not going to see on there that we had to cut was me asking Alex Jones. I was like, I had this. I'm going to leave it for the end. I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask Alex Jones if we can be text message friends. And he just starts saying, "Wait a minute. What do you mean? You're talking about when you message people and they get the stuff from your website and the text messages go to that? Is that what you're talking about? How do we get that?" And he's talking to his producers. He doesn't realize that I'm actually saying I want a text message with him. So he's just like, and I guess somebody's speaking in his ear. He's like, "Wait a minute, what are you saying to me, brother? What are you asking?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just want to be text message friends with you, Alex Jones, because Joe Rogan talks about all these text messages. He gets crazy messages from Alex Jones. So he basically just told me it was a fun show, and I said, "Thanks for giving me this exclusive story about about Joe Rogan." He says, "You bet. It was a good time." And I'm waiting to hear back from him today about I want to know if he's in any other movies that I don't know about. Because if you guys know, I think like 10, 15 years ago, he was in a Keanu Reeves movie called A Scanner Darkly. It's a really weird, trippy movie. Watch it if you haven't seen it. But it's really funny. What we get into a lot is lockdowns and the whole thing with Spotify and Joe Rogan there, why they first they weren't going to put them on, then they were going to put them on, then they took them off, and now they're off again. So we explain all that in the video. It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we can't put it on YouTube. We can't put anything on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're not seeing a lot of it out there, it's basically only going to be on our website and maybe like Parler and stuff like that. So that's where that is.
Not even Rumble?
I hope so. I hope so. I think so, but I hope so, and I think so. We got a super chat here. Shout out to Andrew. You're doing great work, man. Says survive. Robert Downey Jr. Vlad, are you a fan of Alex Jones? When was the first time you got exposed to him? If so, I have a feeling you are.
Probably around 7 years ago. I've been a fan of him for since day one, since my day one that I got to know him. So,
I think that, and I talked to him about this. The first thing I saw of his was Bohemian Grove when he like infiltrates the secret society.
that's when I heard about him, and since that moment, he's been the goat in that.
He talks about that, Eric, on the Andrew Schultz podcast, where it was actually some British company paid for him to go there, and they used code words. This is what he says, allegedly, of course. Even though it got blown out of the water afterwards, he used code words that were used by the George Bush crowd. Like I think it must have been George Bush Jr. They have like secret passcodes to get into the secret society, and they were using the George Bush code ones. And like they would go up and they'd say, "Oh, this I'm with these people, and this is the code word," and they'd be like, "Oh, George Bush's people, come on in." So it's really funny, Eric. We're gonna get into something that's a lot more up your alley here. If I can
Wait,
add the video.
hang on though.
Go
Just
ahead.
really
Go
quick
ahead.
on that. Just really
Sorry.
quick on
Sorry.
that. It is so, or is he still just completely? He can't have any social media profile, and I'm just, and maybe if I spring the money for the subscription, I can get a little more insight. But is this just because of what happened with Sandy Hook that he can't say anything? I mean, to me, they've painted this picture of this monster, but when you actually listen, yeah, he gets a little riled up, right? He gets a little turned up. But I mean, he's never done anything like violent. I think all of this is based around him calling a certain event a couple years ago a false flag, and now, I mean, I feel like okay, it's false flag perhaps is a conspiracy theorist term, but then that's all like Operation Mockingbird, CIA stuff, anyways. So why is he really so dangerous? I mean, I feel like we really don't have an answer for that.
Well, he has the biggest following in the conspiracy theories world. Why is the real Sky so dangerous? He only has following majority just in Canada. Alex Jones has it all over the world. He is dangerous. Well, for them,
For them,
he's not dangerous for us. He's actually, in my opinion, we need him to awaken the people, but he's dangerous for the establishment because they don't want people to awaken.
absolutely. And I think just really quick too is like when I was first introduced to him, I was under the mainstream media spell. I was like, oh, why would you listen to this guy? And then I listened to him. I was like, oh shit, So like once you realize what he's saying, like I totally it can be dangerous because if people start to realize that he's actually making some sense and telling the truth, then it becomes very detrimental to the establishment narrative. But
if you have any logical thinking and you go past that emotional response that he's just acting like a crazy guy, that's like a liberal response.
yeah.
But if you have a logical thinking, then you're already not a liberal, and you will give him a chance and actually listen to anything, and then it's hard to deny anything that he's saying. So
Absolutely,
he's the GOAT.
I mean, the stuff that he was allegedly banned for, he apologized for. He said he was wrong. Even Don Lemon says people deserve a second chance now. You guys, Vlad loves Don Lemon. I'll play another clip. I'll play another clip of Alex Jones and on my show in a few topics. So stick around, and we'll get to that again. Now we're going to go to Eric's former neck of the woods of New York. We're going to play a clip to set up the story. New York City is giving away money if you get. I guess we can't avoid talking about. Let's try to not say the V word, or we're going to say it anyways.
We announced a plan where you could win up to $5 million if you get vaccinated next week. Vax and Scratch. How do you like that name? Vax and Scratch. You get a vaccination and you get a lottery ticket for the $5 million mega multiplier New York State Lottery. Now, the Vax and Scratch ticket has a first prize of $5 million, but a number of prizes that go down to $20. The chances of winning something in this program are 1 in 9 that you win something.
This is insane. Eric, what level are we at now where they're literally giving? Last week it was eating fries, Eric. This week we're giving away possibly millions of dollars. I mean, even for argument's sake, even anybody has to suspect if you are giving away this much money, where is that money coming from? You can't, like, I guess if I was going to argue against it, you could say, they're losing so much money on healthcare. This is gonna save the money if people just go and do it. What do you say to that?
No, so it's a lottery, right? So I think they're basically just giving out lottery tickets, as I understand it. So wherever the actual lottery money comes from, that's where it'll be coming from. But why this is worse, right? We talked last week with Bryson about them bribing people with a burger, and I said, "Who is this for?" Because in my mind, I'm like, dude, you have to be an idiot to get a poisonous shot in your arm for one cheeseburger and a small order of fries. But why this is actually worse than that is because clearly Cuomo sees de Blasio out there and he's like, hold my beer, right? But this is even more targeting to poor people, to New Yorkers who live in this, even with rents at an all-time bottom, at a low, where like the median rent in Manhattan is less than $3,000 for the first time in probably a decade. Don't quote me on that. We can look it up. But we also know that your chances of winning a lottery, he says 1 in 9, but can we really believe a guy who killed thousands of old people in the nursing homes? I mean, the stories just go on and on about his whole family and all this sort of these things that this completely corrupt man is doing. But it boils my blood to see him say that, well, we're going to enter you in a lottery for $5 million if you subject yourself to this experiment. But we all know that you can just get that shot and nobody's going to win that money. So at least with the cheeseburger, as cringe as that was, you knew that you were getting a tangible thing. If you were stupid enough to be a sheep and go get that cheeseburger for your shot, fine, done deal. But now they're saying, well, you might win something, but we all know nobody's going to win $5 million off this.
Let's take a look at the second half of the clip, and then we'll hear from Vlad.
Fine. That you win something. So it is a very exciting lottery. The value of the ticket is $20. If you had to buy the ticket, it's $20.
How do you? That's a fake. That's a pretend number.
Get a vaccination, and you get a free $20 scratch-off ticket for the multiplier game. 100% free. We're starting it at the 10 mass vaccination sites across the state. Here in Buffalo, it's at the University of Buffalo, but they are 10 conveniently located sites all across the state. It begins on Monday, the 24th. It goes to Friday, the 28th.
Vlad, when the government is giving you an injection or a medical product and they're giving you money, is that not only a time where that happens when you're part of a trial for some sort of pharmaceutical thing?
When they want to put a rat and make a rat move certain direction in a lab rat, in a rat lab, whatever, and they all move that direction. It's exactly what it is. If you look at it from a perspective, like just a simple perspective, like take yourself out and look from the world from the outside, and then just this whole COVID situation, you put in these motherfuckers, they're running the show, and then the doctors under them, and then controlling us, the rats in the labs. This experiment trying to do when there's multiple fucking vaccines and even vaccines before and everything. I don't know what they're turning us into. They know. But it's just even listen to how the way this Cuomo guy talking and all these liberals, how the Kamala Harris, how the Pelosi, how they're all talking, like they're talking. The way they talk is like they talk. It's like you would talk in a kindergarten to kids. Have you ever seen like Trump or Republicans or conservatives talking that? No, it's usually talking like with some sort of IQ. Like you know what I mean, some sort of intelligence. They talking. you get the scratch and what is it called? Shot and scratch. It's like, what the fuck? That's how they talk into like little children. This is pathetic,
Eh,
man. I just
I
boils my
think you've
blood.
got some sort of different set of wisdom being from Western Russia, because you started off with like a riddle, and then I'm like, oh, now I've learned something interesting. Eric, Eric, you used to live in New York. Is there, like, I'm trying to be fair about it. Whenever we talk about this stuff, I try to be like, okay, what's somebody who completely disagrees with me thinks? And they would say, okay, this is a good way to get people to do it. They're begging people to do it because it's for their own health and safety. Is there anyone you know or that you can picture that would watch this and it would come across as like, yes, this is great. I want to do this. Maybe it's somebody. Maybe it's for poor people. Maybe that's what the thing is.
I mean, I don't know anybody personally that would subscribe to this. I can, and I think I've mentioned this story before, is like just walking around Brooklyn and seeing people. I'm sure you guys remember when people were clapping for nurses at 7 p.m. or whatever it was, and it was like, yay, like nurses. So I can remember people in my neighborhood who would hang out the window and beat a pot with a spoon while wearing a mask and gloves. Like maybe that woman might see this and go do that. But what I really think is happening here, on top of the experiment, like that they're trying to look, we can go all the way down the rabbit hole and talk about infertility and depopulation and all that stuff, and I'm open to all that. But I think on top of that, this is just a great way for them to completely ignore everything else happening in New York. I mean, people, every morning I wake up and I just type in the words New York into DuckDuckGo and see what the news has to say. Sure enough, a slashing, a stabbing, a robbery, a shooting. The violence is through the roof, but you don't have to pay attention to that because virus, right? Just look over here. Like, don't worry about people getting pushed onto the subway tracks on the 4 train. Don't worry about none of that. All you need to worry about is you're going to probably die of the virus unless you listen to us, because if we all remember 6 or 8 months ago, if you didn't wear a mask, you were going to die. And predictably, I think anybody with an IQ above room temperature could see where that escalation was going to go. And here we are. They're like, and they know, on top of all that, they know that people don't really want it. Why are they offering so much stuff? Why have they never once? Why did nobody just say in the whole organization, the whole liberal, mafia, nobody once said, "Hey, you know what? We really think this is good for you. We think it works. You should really look into it. Ask your doctor if it's right for you, and we'll give you a gift certificate to the farmers market or a 6-month gym membership. We think that'd be good for you. Go ahead and look into it." All they did was force you into submission at every single turn, which for anybody who's paying any little bit of attention has to raise a bunch of red flags. I can't. It boils my blood. Like, I get so turned up. I mean, watching him collude with his brother. I mean, the nursing homes, the women, all this stuff, and they will never face a consequence ever.
We'll get to that more of the Cuomo collusion there in a minute. But Vlad, you're from a different part of the world. Certainly, you're at least almost old enough to have lived under communism. Your parents and your relatives, for sure. Do you guys talk about? Do you see any parallels with like this constant coercion of like doing this? It's the right thing, free stuff. It's the best for you guys. Any parallels or experiences you can draw on, or stories that you've heard that compare to this sort of stuff?
Yeah, my mother was just here, and then as soon as she landed, they announced this lockdown, and I was like, holy shit, I can't even take my mother out to a restaurant. And then she sees what's happening, how like just seeing it firsthand, and then I bring up these talks of like communism, how it's like, and she's like, yeah, that's exactly how it is. Like, that is communism. But that's like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
Eric,
that's all the stories about communism. They all match up. That's it.
that's what we hear from at
Yeah.
these protests a lot from former Yugoslavians, Russians, Ukrainians. Like, we can get into what countries, Serbia, Montenegro, stuff like that. And then even some South Americans, our companies met at the protests, all say the same thing. Oh, everything's being promised to you. Oh, it's all going to be great. You don't need to work. Shut down the small businesses, and everything's going
And
to be good. We
they're
got another.
slowly putting it into submission, like Eric said. Slowly, like, even these masks. It's like, subconsciously you're wearing a mask. It's like somebody's telling you you're not even allowed to talk. You're like a fucking just shut up and have that mask on. That's exactly what pretty much is. It's like a symbolism, and
And they
that's why
actually
they
have
slowly
that.
they're slowly
Like,
putting it to submission, and then more and more they add you're gonna agree with it, and then they make you like suffer, so you're gonna agree with everything. They're gonna be like, oh, 2 more weeks of lockdown, this and that. Oh, let's swab your fucking asshole for the COVID. They're gonna start agreeing to all of this shit. So they break it down and then they do whatever the fuck they want to do. So
Super chat from Survival. I live in Western Washington State. It's mega leftist haven. These people love their masks, and shame on anyone not wearing it. They're insane cringe lords. It's really sad to me that in Canada, we're further behind than every other place in the Western society. I watch soccer highlights. They have like I think half capacity in their stadiums. New York, barely informed with Elad's tweeting about how things are opening up there in New York. His gym is mask optional. Insane to me. Even LA, Gavin Newsom doesn't want to get kicked out. They're opening up. Literally everywhere else except for us is living their lives again. Eric, what's the story about Andrew and Chris Cuomo here? About this book here.
yeah, so this, I just thought this was kind of funny because, so we have loads of Cuomo stuff, right? I mean, you know how much I love Andrew Cuomo. So it's just ironic that he got apparently what totaled up to $5 million for this book deal, which ironically is the exact same amount that he's offering to in this jab lottery. So that's just kind of funny. But on top of that, we also now know that little Fredo Cuomo was coaching his brother on how to deal with the media amongst the scandals that he was dealing with. And so again, I've said this before, but if Don Jr. or even it could even be Ivanka, and Ivanka's basically a leftist, but if one of Trump's kids or Trump's brother was on television 5 nights out of the week, we would never ever hear the end of it, right? So why? And I was screaming about, bro, I was screaming about this years ago. When I first got to New York, almost, I was like, wait, when you get a little taste of the corruption, but it's not until much later when they start going super heavy-handed. But as soon as the virus hits, I'm like, wait, hold on. So you're telling me that this guy's little brother is on television every single day, and he's gonna pretend to be a neutral, news personality? It's absolutely insane. And just real quickly on like how they beat people into submission and put the mask on and don't talk. They literally have signs in the subway in New York that tell people not to talk. Like they're on this yellow stuff that you see. They're on the top panels of the train, and they say the best way is to and they're all NPC faces. It's just like the little black eyes and the little nose, and it's like, don't talk, it's safer. I'm like, wow, bro, and they buy it, and the propaganda has worked because, like I said, remember many months ago, or maybe it was more than a year ago, when I sent you that footage from the testing facility, when the testing facility was empty. But you fast forward 6 months
in New York
City, in Brooklyn,
I've seen those videos.
You fast forward 6 or 8 months, and now the testing facilities have a line around the block. So the propaganda worked, and it's sad.
They might have been his videos that you saw, Vlad.
I hope so.
Most likely, yeah. But we have been demoralized. Just like I have seen that ex-KGB Yuri guy that's been predicting how the communism is going to enter the U.S. in the fourth stage of demoralization. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I saw it put to Call of Duty.
The people been demoralized. That's it, man. They're complete sheep. It's pathetic. I don't know. It's just pathetic. How people not even cluing in, not even questioning why are we doing this? They don't even have that question in their head.
All right, let's be careful and be very nice with this next topic. Lego unveils first LGBTQ set ahead of Pride Month. I don't know how. I mean, if they're just different colors, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously this is overkill. Obviously, nobody who has a thought in their head doesn't. This is such pandering, is what I'm trying to say. That anybody with a brain should see through that. Lego just wants to capitalize on it. But if it's just rainbow colored stuff, I think I'm okay with it. Let's read. Lego fans can build castles, jungles. I'm basically reading them an ad. This CNN. This is basically an ad for Lego. But from June, the company will launch a brand new product, the first ever LGBTQ set themed "Everyone is Awesome." 346 pieces will go on sale for Pride Month. I wanted to create a model that symbolizes inclusivity and celebrates everyone, no matter how they identify or who they love. Okay, so my first point to that, Eric, is that has nothing to do with sexuality. This is just colors, different colored people. You've done nothing. All they've done is paint things different colors, and this is the even for pandering, Vlad. This is a low bar. Like we can see here, we've got a woman with big hair, a guy with curly hair, another guy with curly hair. These just look like regular people with different colors. Are you sick of this sort of stuff yet, Vlad? Are you expecting it? Does it bother you anymore?
I'm expecting it, and I knew it all along. This is when the young people's brain is still developing. It's like a sponge that's filled up with water. That's why that's for us. It might be like, oh, we can understand it. It's not affecting us. For the younger generation, when they see the rainbow colors more, when they see this equality, when they see men and women that look alike, there's dolls you cannot distinguish. There's Lego models, you can't distinguish which one is the man clearly, which one is the woman. And what it does, that it, you know what? I'll just say it simply. That overall is just removes an alpha male. That you add like the lowering testosterone, you add the cartoons, you add the rappers nowadays. They're all pretty much none of them are gangsters. None of them have like any principles, gangster morals anymore. They all wear skirts and shit like that. So all of this is a psychological warfare to eliminate an alpha male. Because once alpha male is gone, you can control families, you can control anything. Like look at the people that are rising against these masks, against the lockdowns, people that were for Trump. Who are these people? This alpha male, alpha female, sure. This is just alphas, and we are the problem. And slowly, we will be removed.
Eric,
Or
how
just,
much
I
of
mean,
this
yeah,
is sorry. Eric, how
yeah,
much of this is pandering or planned? Because a lot of this thing, like I'll give an example of Harry Styles that I don't even know what Harry Styles is famous for. I think the music. Um, he goes out and he does this whole thing where he's wearing a dress, and he goes on James Corbin wearing a dress, and he's promoting it in magazines and everything. And then it turns out that it's a Gucci dress. It's part of a Gucci campaign. James Corbin he was a talk show host, is also sponsored by Gucci. So they put together this whole fake movement where they're like, we care about like transgendered people and we care about gay men. But it turns out they were just modeling Gucci dresses, Gucci handbags. They're both sponsored by Gucci. They're just doing ads for it. How much of this is just painfully forced for marketing versus what Vlad is saying, which is like a real attack, which I
or both.
recognize. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It's what they do when people are trying to overturn a country. It's been happening for thousands of years, and that's why I get mad at people who are like, "Yay, communism!" Because like play a strategy video game and you'll learn about like communism and like political Islam as a base. But so, how much of this is one or the other, Eric? Do you think?
Well, actually, you bring up a good point, and that's a little bit more lighthearted than I was ready to give it. Like, I think it's a little
Uh
bit more
oh.
sinister. I mean, I do. I think it's a little bit more sinister, and just to your point, like the Gucci stuff, and you saw Kid Cudi on Saturday Night Live a couple of weeks ago. He was wearing a dress, and then turns out he was advertising some brand as well. So there is that element to it, but I think, I mean, okay, we all know who mostly uses Legos, who plays with Legos. It's kids, right? So it's just another way to quietly add this stuff into your kid's subconscious. They're doing it with cartoons, and you know they have a new version of the Proud Family. I don't know if you remember the Proud Family from like the early 2000s. They're rebooting that with same-sex parents. The army ads that you're seeing with the girl who you know, I grew up with a normal life and I had 2 moms. And look, it all kind of, for me at least, it all kind of aligns with this. Look, you could take it all the way up to the juice here, the Rona juice that they're trying to give people, and you know it causes a menstrual bleeding and could also, I mean, there's studies out there out of Miami. I don't know if you saw this, that they were recommending, before this thing actually came out, they were actually recommending that men freeze their sperm just in case. Does that really sound like something you want to do? Think about that. So my point is, this is all to, whether one way or another, they're going to gain full control. So if you're not going to be transgender, if you're not going to be gay, then you're going to be juiced up with this elixir. You know what I mean? They just want you completely controllable. You go to New York City, they're going to force the vaccine down your throat, and the only population that is not being forced is the homeless population. And what do they have for them? Narcan, naloxone. They want you under complete control.
Big pharma is doing fine with them.
Pharmaceuticals, the pharmafia, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
So
You know
I
what
think,
Well,
I think you're giving it, you're making it a little bit lighthearted, which is like a marketing ploy, which is still kind of sinister as well. But I think it's actually deeper than that, me personally.
Maybe two stones, one bird. Oh,
Yeah.
one bird, 2 stones. Or
Exactly.
Fuck it is. Yeah.
get two birds stoned at once. I've been able to use that phrase 3 times today already from Trailer Park Boys. Some more of that stuff is evident in Google documents that I'm looking at here that Eric sent me earlier. They're suggesting gender. I'm so confused. Gender neutral terms. We can scroll down to a couple examples here. For a sentence like before launch, give everything a final sanity check. I don't know what happens there. Final sanity check. The company recommends instead before launch, give everything a final check. So we can't disparage people who may be insane. You guys couldn't hear that video playing, right? Or could you? That'd be a revelation if we could. Okay. Another suggestion is to write equipment installation takes around 16 person hours instead of 16 man hours. I mean, Vlad, you bring this stuff up to women, and I don't recall any of them who care about any of this stuff. The only time I can recall somebody caring was somebody in my public relations class where it was 40 women, so one of them was bound to care, where they're telling us don't use waitress, use server. Don't use stewardess, use flight attendant. And some of them progress naturally over time, but would you say that the forcing of this is along the same lines of what you were mentioning before?
Oh, 100%. It's a psychological warfare that they're the masters of it. Every little thing matters. You hit from every single angle. If it doesn't relate, Legos don't work on a 20 plus population, 30 plus population. Let's change the master bedroom name to something, or let's change the flight attendant, whatever. All this gender neutral shit. And it's
I remember that with the master bedroom thing. That was ridiculous.
It's insane. It's all insane.
It's
all right, before we get to the last Alex Jones clip, let's pay some bills here. You can find Vlad on vlad.mma on Instagram, where he's posting, Vlad, a lot of shirtless pics here. You want to tell us what's going on here? We've got him drinking water shirtless. We've got him on the beach shirtless.
Getting down women.
Okay. I like this one where he triggered a lot of people by reading Donald Trump Jr. and wearing a MAGA hat. Roger Stone. Nelk Boys.
Oh, is that
guy's
Nelk
amazing.
Boys? Oh.
Yeah, Vlad, you got to hook me up. The Nelk Boys Kyle from Nelk is from Mississauga. I need to interview him.
He
fun story.
I'll with Salim. And,
tell him people at Rebel News love Nelk and that they want to talk to them.
And he's definitely one of our type of guy. He has a similar thinking. Him and Steve, they have a similar mindset. So he would
can see that.
Love to talk to him.
If he's interested, please let me know. But please send him a message for me. Eric's book is on Amazon, of course. New York City 2020, Gotham Unglued. Get your hardcover in 49 amazing US dollars, which is $10 billion Canadian. No, it's not that much more. It's like 60. That's how much mine cost. 2 days. What an amazing world you live in the United States here, Eric, where you can get a book sent to you for 2 days. Throw it back up. There you go. Garbage Man on the front. Everybody go get it. And if you want to go watch the rest of my show with Alex Jones, it's on Rebel News Plus, or you can go to rebelnews.com and click on shows. And Andrew says there, and it's me. And look at that beautiful man, Alex Jones. You know, right before we started filming, right before Alex and I started filming, he goes, "Oh, you're dressed very nice. I don't know. Should I button up my shirt?" And I go, Alex, Alex, you be however you want to be. I want to keep this fun. Say whatever. Don't say whatever you want to say, but be whatever Alex you want to be. And he's like, "Oh, believe me, it's real, brother. Every single minute of it." He's just so
you're making
funny.
a crazy impression of him. He's like exactly his voice. Exactly his voice.
Good. Let's go to the InfoWars store. We've removed the iodine from our pharmaceutical products. We do not have to have any fluoride in our toothpaste. InfoWarsStore.com. You go to the RebelNewsStore.com and use promo code Andrew10, you guys. That's his book, Says Survival. Yes, that's Eric's book on Amazon. If you go to his Instagram page at ReportNoPine, you can buy it from there, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yes,
Okay, let's
sir.
take another random question before we see it. Careful of Arders. He's been involved in Calgary homeless corruption. They're talking about the priest who was arrested for opening his church. That bastard. Feeding the homeless. All right, let's take a look at this last Alex Jones clip, and then we'll talk about it. One of those stories of what you and Joe Rogan are up to when you're not recording.
Well, Joe works so much that since he moved to Austin, I think we talk on the phone like every other day, but I think we only hung out. Well, I guess we had dinner. Yeah, we've had dinner like 3 times, and then he's been over to my studio and did like a 3-hour interview, and then we've hung out a few other times. I was in his studio, but that's about it. I mean, Joe works as hard as anybody I know, and he's about 5 years older than me. So we'll go to a steakhouse, and we'll have like a 2.5-hour dinner, and there's usually scientists there and or comedians. So he'll kind of have a dinner with comedians. He'll invite me to that. Or he'll have a dinner with scientists, and then I'm there with scientists. And that's what he pretty much does is he'll, on his off nights, maybe twice a week, he'll take his daughters out to dinner or out to do an event or, do something, and his wife. And then about one day a week, he'll take, he'll go out to dinner with like Elon Musk, or he'll go out to dinner with, other scientists mainly from like top virologists, top, I went to dinner, I'm not going to say who, but like a top AI expert. We went to dinner with an AI expert. And then Joe just sits there with really interesting people, and we'll eat a big old tomahawk, a 35-ounce, 40-ounce steak, and then that's basically it.
The reason I wanted to do that interview with Alex, because whenever he's on, and I mentioned Andrew Schultz podcast, of course, Joe Rogan, whenever he's on one of these podcasts, I don't care whose it is. Logan Paul is another one. I just go and watch it, and it's so entertaining no matter what he says. People fact check him like Joe Rogan, and he ends up being right. There's only a few things that we had to source in this interview because it was mainly me being like, this is what I want to hear from Alex talk about. And the story he gives about Joe Rogan and Spotify is exclusive. You won't actually hear that anywhere else. The updated story about that. We got somebody saying that they're going to buy your book, Eric. Vlad, any last words? Anything about Alex Jones? Anything? When's your next fight? Maybe that.
Was supposed to be June 5 in Vancouver, but doesn't look like it might have. I don't know. Hopes up. Opponents pull out, so hopes up. Probably I'll find somebody right now.
Sorry to hear that. We hope it is. It'll be right in line with Ontario's fake reopening. Eric, anything else from you?
No, man. I appreciate somebody says they're going to buy the book. I appreciate that. Very thankful. And I think my thing today, man, is just my complete disgust with New York. I think I really made the right decision, right? I mean, these guys can just get away with anything. At least the Californians. Now they're in a complete mess. They're gonna perhaps elect Bruce Jenner or whatever, or Caitlyn. I'm sorry. But the New Yorkers don't even seem to have that sort of stand up in them, right? Like, New Yorkers, when you think about New York, they're supposed to be tough, with Timberland boots, I'm standing here, that type of thing. But they don't do anything. It's crazy that the people out in California who probably smoke pot all day, every day, have more backbone, and they're actually getting rid of Gavin Newsom. than the folks out in New York. But all that said, you can see what Cuomo and de Blasio have done to New York in this book. So that's
Wow,
it.
what an amazing plug. Amazing segue. Did you go to marketing school? Next week, I think we're going to
I did
do...
actually, which is true.
Fuck, there you go. Next week, we're going to do a cryptocurrency. Eric's gonna, gyrate and be so happy for once that we're talking about cryptocurrency.
It's been a wild ride.
It has been. Vlad, have you bought any crypto?
I bought it since day one, and I have about 20 cryptos. And,
Nice. See, we could have talked
so
about that
the
this
Bitcoin
week.
is not really affecting me much because for some reason not all of them went down. Usually when Bitcoins go down, everything just falls. But my money, I only lost, I think, 2,700 since that Bitcoin went down. But I don't even have Bitcoin. I have everything else but Bitcoin.
My Ethereum went down hell a lot, but we'll save that for next week. Thanks for joining us, Vlad. We hope you get to fight. Go to vlad.mma on Instagram. Eric's book, somebody else already bought it. My show, rebelnewsplus.com. Thank you.
Awesome.